Hi folks, you are halfway through the week. In fact, when you're listening to this, you'll be more than halfway through the week because you'll be on the train home, or you will finish your working day, or you're sitting at home doing some painting, doing some cooking, looking after the kids, doing whatever you're doing. I'm here to make sure you're getting through this bit of the week because it's all downhill in a good way from here towards the weekend. No sponsorships today because I just wanted to keep it nice and clear, just do some hobby nightmares. If you like what I'm doing, then please make sure that you subscribe, or you like the video, or you show people that I'm here. Or, if you really want to, or you're feeling a bit flushed this month, head over to Patreon and get me a beer or something if you feel like it. And, yeah, thank you very much, because each and every single one of you who does that gets me towards my £750 a month target. I figured it would take me a month or two to try and get there. We're making okay progress, but, it tends to stall a little bit every now and again. So, if we can get there, it means I can stop relying on ad revenue completely. I've been told by certain people to keep the ads on anyway, but I'm not sure. I'll make the decision when I get there, to be honest with you. But yeah, anyway, if you do that, then you'll be automatically subscribed and entered into our monthly prize draw, as long as your subscription is active. And you can win 2 sets of £30 of free models from Composite Games. Those are totally yours. You can decide what you're going to spend your £30 on. And even if you are not in the UK, I will pay the money to get them to you, alright? So this is open to everybody, not just, people in the EU. So, let's carry on with some hobby nightmares, shall we? Before I go anywhere else. Wind88 says, "Hi Exile, great job on your channel. Thank you very much. Thought I would share a meta versus meta hobby nightmare when you mentioned you were low on stories, okay? This took place more than a few years ago. A fantasy battle, but with Warhammer 4th edition rules. The rules promoted a hero hammer game mentality where one hero could easily take down an army, if used properly. Who needs rank and file troops, tactics, etc. The rules absolutely sucked when looking back on it, but they were all we had. Some of the details of this story may not be 100% accurate, but the end result was." Okay, yeah, I understand memories are a thing. "A friend and I had each taken a 500-point orc army, in anticipation of playing a team at the shop with their 1,000-point army. My army had a mid-level orc leader, lots of orcs and gobbos, some boar riders, etc. A good orc army, but meta it was not. My friend had our general in his 500 points, but matched mine in numbers, rank and file, etc. Strangely, when he arrived at the shop, he had brought 2 sheets of paper, one with his army, and the other hidden. Okay. There were no other items in the shop, but there was a single guy, no other teams, in the shop, but there was a single guy there willing to play using 1,000-point army versus our combined army. Let's call him Meta Mike. Meta Mike set up his army across the board from us. It was a Chaos army, one composed of 4 or 5 units of really crappy Chaos Goblins, and 1 hero. Meta Mike was a bit cocky, obviously having played this scenario a couple of times. One can almost hear the fantasy dialogue that occurred on the battlefield that morning. Chaos General Billy Badass, "Hey, gobbos, there is an orc army approaching. Here, hold my beer, behold this, and worship me." So obviously, this guy is a hero who's going to come in and stomp your entire army, because it's 4th edition Warhammer. That's what it was like. I set up my army, concerned at what a short game this appeared it would be, but the butt-kicking we were about to face. My buddy had pulled out the sheet from under my army sheet, and was chuckling as he set up his force. His new army had a general, a couple of orc units, and 8 catapults. Games Workshop had decided that it was far better to make siege weapons viable in order to sell more models. So instead of a catapult rarely having a chance in hell of ever hitting a mobile unit on a battlefield, they gave catapult a 25% chance of hitting a target. Turn 1 had Meta Mike keep his unit at the back of the table edge, eager to watch Billy Badass ride down the centre of the table towards us. On our turn, I started to move around, but the Orc General growled to stay put, so I did. Okay, you're being told what to do, which is fine, but at the end of the day, 2 people playing on this battlefield, just gotta say. Anyway, turn 2 was a repeat of turn 1 for Meta Mike and Billy Badass. The Chaos General riding alone in the centre of the table towards us. In our turn 2, the Orc General sprung his trap. With 8 shots, the Orc General should have hit 2 times, but he hit Billy Badass 3 times. The Chaos General had a toughness of 10, with an armoured save of 2+, with something like 6 wounds. The catapult shot hit with strength 10, no armour save, and did 4 to 6 wounds per hit. The Chaos General was instantly turned into cherry jello before his Chaos Goblin's eyes. The colour ran from Meta Mike's face, and he stammered something unintelligible. My friend apologised and asked if he wanted to continue the game. Meta Mike shook his head, packed up and left. Meta beat Meta. We waited until Meta Mike left the shop, and after a rousing cheer and childish giggling, gave each other a high five. We continued to tinker with the rules, trying to get something that would work, eventually giving up and moving on to War Master, which we still play to this day. Keep up the good work, Wind88. Well, it's a shame that you guys had to move on from Warhammer, but I guess, you know, there are certain parts of Games Workshop's, shall we say, rules, quote unquote, and I mean that very loosely, where sometimes they do kind of ruin their own games. I don't think, for all intents and purposes, the people who say that the 8th edition ruined 40k or that 9th edition is even worse, I tend to think it can be, but I tend to think also that a lot of these people are getting those opinions by playing people who are just not very good at the game. When I say not very good at the game, rules-wise, they are very good, but they miss out the most important rule, in that both people in the game of Warhammer, no matter what it is, are supposed to have fun. If you play something like that constantly, and they expose you to horrible meta all the time, then yeah, you're going to be thinking that, wow, these rules really suck, and, you know, I don't want to play this game anymore. It was so much better back in the day when they did X, Y, Z. But at the end of the day, for me, 90% of a good game of Warhammer is finding an opponent who you're going to have fun playing. Essentially. You know. But hey, there we go. Brandon says, "Hey North, I considered just having an emoji for a name, but thought the better of it. Here, I just wanted to say I love your videos, and I've been following your channel for a while now, since the first big working for GW vid." Wow, that was way back in the day. That was like 2018. "I'm a bit of a loner, but I wanted to let you know that the highlight of my work week. You once kept me entertained for a full 14-hour stretch, of course, without a break." Wow, Jesus. "Of stock counts. I work in a distribution centre. So be proud, big man." Thank you very much, dude. I frequently go back and listen to the archive, and seeing how things have changed over the past year or so always gives me a smile. Ah, that's really nice. Cheers, man. "I've been trying to write out some hobby nightmares for you. I'm a bit of a lapsed gamer, but they're a bit painful to go back over. I was a gaming young, and my childhood was, like a lot of folks, not awesome." Okay. "I realise the amount of context required is exhaustive, and events in the stories are a bit too convoluted, depressing and dark to share without dredging up a lot of rough memories for me. I guess my life is just a bit too effed up for light reading and casual circulation. I think you're right that there's a lot of broken people in the hobby. It just doesn't click that you were talking about me too, until I sat down and tried to put it into words." Yeah, do you know what? When I read these batches, sometimes I get a bit confused about why I put certain stories or certain messages in a certain batch. With this one, I get this message a lot. By a lot of people who say, yeah, I agree, it's a hobby full of broken things, but I'm not one of them, of course. And then they actually do some thinking and self-reflection and then realise, oh, actually, yeah, I have had quite a bit of a rough time in my life. Actually, yeah, I have had times when, I haven't wanted to be here anymore. Actually, yeah, I think I do have ADHD. Actually, yeah, I have been diagnosed with certain things that aren't very good. And they kind of realise that they're involved, even if it is in a minor way, into that, bastards and broken things dynamic that is the hobby. I tend to think a lot of people do not take that quite seriously enough. People tend to think, oh, well, it's fine, and here we go, we're going to do this, that, and the other. But for me, I honestly think that the hobby itself attracts people who are broken, who need work, who need something to fill their lives. Warhammer is an extremely demanding hobby when you look at what it requires of you, both financially and otherwise. And to throw yourself into it is one hell of a thing to do. So, as I'm saying, I honestly think that It is a hobby full of broken things, and realizing that you're one of them is a really good step to going, hey, you know what? This hobby's done a lot for me. It's done a lot for me. It's doing well. It's doing well. Anyway, onwards and upwards. At the end of the day, I'm happy just chipping away at what remains of my pile of shame and reading the lore. Anyways, mate, best of luck, and hope things are going well. Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you very much, man. I hope things get better for you as well. And thank you for watching. You must have been here for the original GW video, which was in 2018, which I've been told so many times to re-record and redo again, because it got like 80,000 views. What's it on now? I think it ended up on something like 80,000 views, and people are saying, my God, you're not getting any ad revenue for that, because there was no ad revenue at the time on my channel. Oh my God, it's going to take me so far down this thing to go down here and have a look where it was. Oh no, actually, it's not that bad. I'm already nearly there. And here we go. So 95,000 views right now. So, and again, because it was that long ago, it now doesn't make any money. So I've been told to re-record it a few times. Now they've got nice recording equipment and shit like that, you know. So I'm not actually doing nothing. I can actually do something quite nice. But anyway, I may look into that in future. Duke Leto says, greetings, Mr. Exile and fellow Hobby Nightmare enthusiasts. I'm a big fan of the channel, and even though I haven't played 40k since 2nd edition, I prefer one-page rules at this point in my life. I'd like to tell you about a horror... Oh, by the way, I've been in contact with the one-page rules guys. I'm putting together a video with the next couple of weeks, where we are going to be going over the one-page rules and why they work for Warhammer 40,000, and why you should probably give them a chance. But, yeah, you know, we're going to go over that later on, next couple of weeks. As my time gets more, shall I say, available for the next couple of weeks. Anyway, I'd like to tell you about a horror story from the late 90s in which I was the douche, okay? At about 16 years old, my best friend introduced me to Warhammer and his older brother who hung out with older gamers. These guys had a lot of disposable income and a shit ton of crafting experience. They also worked as professional party stagers. They would come into conventions, weddings, corporate events and create enormous props to coincide with the themed event. Picture a 20-foot squid built just for an under-the-sea ballroom theme. Anyway, these dudes were heavy into 2nd edition and could build tabletop terrain that could make your jaw drop, yeah, I bet. I remember getting invited to bring my marines for a massive Tyranid jungle battle they were planning. They had built an outright diabolical 4x8 swamp-style jungle board, complete with poured resin rivers and canopy trees. This was something you'd see in a White Dwarf. It's at this point where I learned my first wargame hobby lesson. These are normally the harshest ones. I had brought a squad of tactical marines, a commander, and a squad of devastators, which were simply primed. Before the game started, I was surprised to hear that my unpainted devastators couldn't be used. They explained to me the importance of creating an immersive experience, which is the core of the hobby. It's not about winning or losing, but having fun and escapism. They instead let me borrow a squad of beautifully painted Dark Angels. Later on, they let me participate in a chain painting session where we did assembly line painting as a group. Cool. So, my second mistake came halfway through the jungle battle. Well, I wouldn't say taking the Devastators is a mistake, man. Don't worry about it. So my second mistake came halfway through the jungle battle when I had a shitty roll for my commander who died to a lowly Hormagaunt. In my rage, I proceeded to flick the enemy model across the board with my index finger. Okay, yeah, now you're being a dick. The record scratches and everybody stares at me in disbelief. I never felt so embarrassed. To my luck, these chaps were very forgiving and didn't kick me out right then and there. They calmly let me know that wasn't cool and proceeded to finish the game. Alright, that's for, these guys seem like dads. But actually seem like pretty cool dudes as well. But don't flick other people's models. I know it's shitty when things go against you. You know, especially if somebody's like being a douche about it. But yeah, don't flick other people's models. I realise this isn't an earth-shattering story, but I can't tell you how much this one game influenced my 25 years of wargaming. In addition to a love of crafting terrain, I still refuse to play with or against unpainted models. I know this is controversial, but I don't consider this gatekeeping, rather basic standards that has gotten too lax lately. With games so few and far between, our time and effort is just too precious to settle for impatient players who can't be bothered to at least try to paint. I know this sounds harsh, but I don't consider you even in the same hobby if you play with unpainted minis. If it, note, I would never criticise your painting attempt, but would honestly rather help paint your grey models than play a game. At least we'd be ready for next time. Lastly, and obviously, don't be a sore loser like I was and flick other people's models. Cheers and keep up the good work. Yeah, I would say you make a very salient point. The fact that, let's be honest, people don't have that much time on their hands these days. People are working extremely hard, and if you come into, I agree with your sentiment, but if somebody literally doesn't like painting and they've just undercoated their army, I'm okay playing against that. I'd be a little bit miffed, like, oh, for God's sake, you know what I mean? But I would still play against it. The one things I wouldn't play against is when people just can't be bothered even basing their armies, like putting them on a base. Or just having like a base there, saying, yeah, it's a flying unit, I'm not going to put it there because it's going to fall off. Like, mate, use some blue tack, I don't care. I'm not having my army fight a blank base. It's not happening, you know? You may as well proxy a Coke can and use that as a dreadnought. I'm not doing it, sorry, you know? And, you know, grey models, I generally, I won't fight grey models normally. If it's not an entire army of grey models, I'm just like, no, dude, at least undercoat them. At least undercoat them, so you haven't just built them and they're just there. Grey models to me smells of power gaming eBay buyer. That's what that smells like to me, and that's why I normally just avoid those people, because the people that I have played who've been like that have been very power gamey, have been very video gamey, and they don't really look at models as being their own. They look at it as being, oh well, I'll have this army now, and when it falls out the meta, I'll just sell it on again on eBay. It's fine, you know. I get what you're saying when you're saying, look, you're not even in the same hobby as me. I get that. I get that sentiment. I think it can go too far sometimes, especially when people start saying, well, you know, your army isn't painted as well as mine, so I don't want to play it. That's when I start seeing the gatekeeping come in a bad way, and I don't like it. Again, gatekeeping can be a force for good. I've said that many times. But, you know, coming into a hobby and basically saying to somebody, your models aren't painted good enough, so I'm not going to play them, is a shitty thing to do. Coming into a hobby and saying your models aren't even painted, so I'm not playing them, is not a shitty thing to do. Right? There are two different forms of gatekeeping there, aren't they? Right? The first one's being a douche in lambasting somebody's hard work for, you know, to make yourself feel better. You're gatekeeping in a bad way when you're being a douche. The second one is gatekeeping in a good way. Mate, put some effort into your fucking models by at least undercoating them and treating them with respect, or why should I play with them? You know, you're literally not the kind of person I want to play with, because to me, you've gotten those models off of eBay or something like that. Of course, there are exceptions, but they just prove the rule, you know? You could have gotten something, well, you probably have gotten something off eBay simply because it's in the meta, and I don't want to play somebody like that because you're out to win at all costs, and that's not the kind of game I want to play. So yeah, two different kinds of gatekeeping there. You're coming down Dukes, Leto, somewhere in the middle there. Somewhere in the middle. Anyway. Death Chase says, Hiya Lord Exile of the North. Hello. I am back with another D&D story from my first group I played with. The group we were playing with had about 67 people at the time. We had a problem player who constantly was stubborn, babyish, and downright not party-oriented. All of us were new players at the time, so maybe these incidents were because of that. Because you might possibly mention gatekeeping this player, hey, I should mention that after this campaign, they were still part of our future campaigns, and that they have learned from this experience. Now, onto the incidents in question. The player was stubborn in a specific scene when we were as a party were actively investigating a corrupt cultist mayor's office, trying to leave no trace behind. The players found that the mayor used to communicate with his subjects. Okay, so you found what he was using to communicate with his cultist people. Alrighty. The problem player shouts, "I take it, give it to me, give it to me. I want to do something with it." The party, perplexed, asked why they wanted to even do with the object. For some reason, the player kept keeping it a secret. After repeated attempts by the party to understand what the player wanted, the player, Frustrated at the party not letting him do what they wanted, threw the device, a glass orb, at the stone wall and cracked it. The party freaks out at him, and he finally says, "I just wanted to cast Identify on the orb." Madness ensues as the party is asking the DM to retcon the situation, which the DM does. Mate, I wouldn't. I'd be like, yeah, it's cracked, sorry. Bad things are happening to you. Learn for next time. Beside the player trying to self-insert his own lore into the DMs, the antics of this player stopped for a while, up until the point where he got kicked out of the party for sacrificing himself, quote unquote. None of us were in danger, he just ran in at a much more powerful creature than the party was going to be able to handle. Now, I'm not sure if you were able to figure this out while reading, but the problem player was actually myself. Okay. I felt bad after all the stupid things I had done inside the game and chose to fight a battle I knew I'd lose. The party then in-game and in real life sent me down the river. Thanks for a reading. Okay, well I can see why they did that, because at the end of the day, role-playing is about immersion, and when you're fully immersed in a game like that, that is a very precious thing. It's a very hard thing to do, role-playing, and when somebody is taking away from the campaign by acting in a way that pulls people out of the action, that person either needs to be told not to do that anymore, or needs to go. One of the two. Yeah, I'm currently planning 2 campaigns that I'm going to play in, not run, over the summer. One of them being probably Vampire the Masquerade, but I'm not sure yet. And, you know, I'm coming up to the realization that, you know, in games like that, I need to be very, very careful, because with games like Vampire and things like that, you can get people who don't want to play ball, who want to ruin the experience for everybody else, because they're not getting their own way. And, in all honesty, that sucks. That sucks. But I've been on the other side of this as well. I've been on the side where a DM has tried to, shall I say, murder my character, because I used to. So I used to run. I used to be the designated dungeon master for my group of friends, and finally, after a while, I'd written a setting and said to people, "Hey, do you guys want to have somebody else run this so I can play in it?" And they reluctantly agreed. And one of my friends at the time became the DM of the campaign, and proceeded to single me out in every single combat and try and murder me. Every single plan I hatched to advance my character's story, or to help somebody else with their story, was stomped out straight away. You know, like they didn't want to do it, or there would be some sort of weird thing that happened to make sure it couldn't happen. You know, every single bullet would magically find me, even around walls and things like that. And I had a girlfriend playing with me at the time in that group, and this poor girl was, because I didn't want to ruin the game for anyone else, but we were communicating in private, obviously, was getting texts from me like, "I'm sick of this motherfucker, I just want to fucking take his head," and no, you know, and she would laugh, but also be like, "Yeah, I know, like, we should not play in this game anymore, it's just not, neither of us are getting any fun about it, because I don't like seeing you singled out, number one, but I also don't like seeing you getting this mad, you know, because he's just driving you insane." So we ended up just leaving at the end of the day. So I've been on both sides of the coin here. You know, I've been a DM who's had players take the piss, and I've been a player who's had DMs take the piss. I think these are really important formulative experiences, though, foundational experiences where you can actually, you know, dredge yourself up some really cool hobby stories from here on in. So I'm glad that you stuck around in the hobby group, and they were able to accept you for being, you know, what you were later on, because you started behaving yourself. Alright. Let me just double check something before I go on here. Alrighty. So Kiwi is back, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the conclusion of one of our tales, or one of our romantic tales from before, where somebody was asking for advice on approaching a woman who he was friends with in the hobby store, and who played with video games with him on Discord quite a lot, things like that. And I told him to go for it, right? Things like that. Here is the conclusion to that. So, because he has asked her out, ladies and gentlemen, so let's see where this is going. So Kiwi says, "Hi North, Kiwi here. The dude that has a thing for a fellow hobby girl. I took your advice. However, at first I wanted to talk to her in real life. but the scheduling was just not working out for us. So I decided to cowboy up, and when we talked in Discord, I told her about how I feel about her and me wanting to take her out on a date. The silence that followed felt like an anvil on my shoulders, but she told me that she was quite surprised and flattered by my feelings for her, but she already had somebody, albeit that somebody was not at all interested in her hobbies. Hence, she comes alone to geek-oriented stuff. We were both mature about the situation, and they assured each other that this wouldn't affect our friendship. I was both disappointed and relieved. Disappointed because she was taken, relieved that now I know the situation and can move on. Exactly. Surprisingly, I felt exactly as you did, as you said you felt when doing similar things. I remember you saying that if you were interested in a girl and ask her out but she refuses, you are okay with it and lose your love interest and can still be friends. I'm not a home wrecker, so I shall not pursue her or try to do some shenanigans like I've heard in some of the other hobby nightmares, and I am glad that both of us are mature enough to maintain our friendship despite the cringy confession. Funny enough, we had a newcomer at my office place, not my department but sister department. She is a bit shy, but she is into the nerd stuff quite badly as well, and we decided to meet up soon and see if we hit it off on a date. Excellent, man. He says, I am a sly devil for already going towards someone else I know. No, you're not. The other person said no. You're not in a relationship with them. Fuck that person. I'm curious what your opinion on dating co-workers is. Okay, I'll get to this part in a minute. But first of all, you did the right thing, man. You shot your shot. You failed. No problem. Happens to absolutely everybody. It's happened to me, and it will happen to me again before I find the one I'm meant to be with. I'm sure. Listen, man, it just is what it is. This is what being single is. You shoot your shot. You know, it didn't come off. That's fine. You got a nice, gentle letdown, and you can move on with your life. You know, you've lanced that boil. Like there's like a boil on your skin that's infected. You've lanced it. You've got all of the venom out of it, and now it can heal. Now you can move on and get on with your life. That's the main thing you want to do. You're not going to live your life with any regrets. That's the main thing. You're just not going to live with any regrets. You've asked this person out. She didn't want to. Fair enough. Move on. You're good, man. And looks like you did exactly the right thing. You got back on the horse. You asked somebody else out, and lo and behold, they want to go out with you, and they're into the same stuff that you are. You know, she's a bit shy, but she's into geeky stuff as well. Brilliant, excellent stuff. Now, I'm going to read the rest of the message. I'm curious what your opinion is on dating co-workers, or if you have any other advice. Okay. Thanks for reading so far. After I get my salary, I will contribute to the Patreon or YouTube membership, and I'll contribute with some more hobby horror stories next weekend. Take care of yourself, King, and thanks for being there for us. No problem, man, and thank you for your contribution, if and when it comes. In terms of dating in the office, I think you're okay. It's not your department, but a sister department, so she's not under your feet all the time, which is the main thing. If she's around you all the time, yeah, you're gonna get sick of her. It just is natural. You're just gonna get sick of her. But if she's working for the same company, that's completely fine. Me and my ex had this discussion when we were talking about working at the same school. I'd have been fine with it because she's not in my department. She should be in another department doing something elsewhere. So that wouldn't have bothered me at all. As long as they're not under your feet all the time. You know, actually being at work together can be quite nice, especially over lunchtime. Like you know, you can break up your day by just being like, "Oh my god, this day sucks. Let me go see my other half here," you know, and that's what you do. But it can lead to overexposure. You know, like seeing the same person every single day can lead to you getting swamped. And there's that motive of, you know, you don't shit where you eat. But for you, you're not shitting where you eat because she's not in the same department. So good. And you know what? That is general advice. But don't take general advice. And I've said this many times before. Don't take general advice as gospel because it's not always right for everybody. Some people might be very happy being with somebody who's at their workplace. You know? So for me, go for it, man. Go on a date. Try and figure out if she's for you. Keep me updated about what's going on if you don't think I'm being too nosy. And well done for breaking that duck and actually getting that other person out of your way. I'm willing to bet. I'm going to take a bet here. I bet £5 of free paints from Composite Games, right? With you, right? They'll call it £10 so you can get a spray can. Call it £10. I bet that the first woman here, when she figures out that you're already dating somebody else and you got back on the horse so quickly, that her relationship will magically disappear and she'll return to you and ask you out in return. Now, do not quote me. I'm not saying it's going to happen, like, definitely. But I'm saying I would like to take that bet with you. So I'm willing to bet that this is going to happen. Because it's happened in other cases in the past. And to be honest with you, I just get that vibe that this is somebody who's like, oh, I've been asked out. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm kind of with this other guy who's not into hobby stuff, but, you know, it is what it is. And then she all of a sudden sees you being really confident, going, okay, yeah, we'll continue being friends, that's cool. And then you're immediately dating somebody else. And now, do not cheat, right? This other person has to know that you're going on a date with somebody else. So if she asks you how your day is going, then say, hey, brilliant, I went on a date, and, you know, she's really nice, and we're going to see each other again, and things like that. Don't lie, obviously, tell her the truth. And if it went badly, tell her the truth. But yeah, I almost want you to let her know and see what happens. You know, because you never know. She might just be a diamond of a girl who's like, you know what, dude, that's amazing, good for you. And then you can just be like, okay, yeah, she's just really cool. But I've just got this funny old feeling. Anyway, but don't play with people's feelings though. That's a big thing, you know. Do you know what? Don't do that. Just don't do what I just said. You know, I'll keep the bet going just in case it happens somewhere down the line, but don't do what I just said. Don't play with people's feelings. If this girl that you're going out on a date with likes you, yeah, don't use this to get leverage with somebody else. That's a really shitty thing to do. I just thought it'd be funny, because I thought that, you know, she would come back and, you know, give you a choice to make, sort of a thing. If that happens, then do let me know, because I did say it was going to happen. But at the end of the day, I think you should treat the one that you're going out with now, who wants to go on a date with you, as the prize. Like, okay, this is great, this is lovely, she's cute, I like her. Do that. But I'm telling you now, I have a funny feeling if the first one finds out about this new date, her opinion might change. Anyway, Crocs says, greetings, Mr. Exile. I have yet another hobby nightmare for you, this time Dungeons and Dragons. My friend was a part of a group which seemed fun, and they were not too far into their campaign. I was first getting into D&D then, so my friend got me to join in. It seemed to be going alright at first, as I was playing a samurai dragonborn, which was awesome to me, but as the time ticked on by, I noticed I wasn't being involved in a lot of stuff, even though I was speaking up and trying to get involved myself. It got to the point where 7 hours passed, and I was unbelievably pissed. 7 hours? Jesus Christ. Like 1 hour is enough for me, man. If I'm sitting there for 1 hour doing nothing, your DM's terrible. I'd wasted my time and money to come down and do nothing, so I got up and left for the bar. We were in a reserved space at a bar we all knew. I stood and ordered a drink to calm down, and my friend, who had suffered the same as me, 7 hours of nothing, joined me. We both decided to confront the DM, and he had the audacity to just automatically put us in an encounter with a beholder, which we killed in 3 hits altogether. We even, when rolling initiative, noticed the DM forgot my name. So when I asked him about it, his response was, "Oh, I forgot you were there." I politely told him to fuck off and went home. Love your channel, North, and I love to share my stories. Making sure to subscribe to this awesome guy and use a sponsor. Let's make Mr. Exile big. Much love from Crocs. Thank you very much, man. Yeah, that is terrible. Like, what the 7 hours? It takes effort to have somebody sit there in a party for 7 hours not doing anything. Christ almighty. And they wonder why more people aren't getting into the hobby. It is becoming a big thing because of Stranger Things and stuff like that. But at the same time, you know, people do wonder. And I just think, seriously? Like, you know, with DMs like that? Come on. Locutus of Borg says, "Hi North, I missed Unpopular Opinion Day by about a month, but I honestly didn't realise how unpopular my opinion was until recently. So I'll give you mine now. By the way, my name is pronounced Loquatus." Haha, I got it right first time. Alright. Anyway, my unpopular opinion. I love tournaments. The only reason I play 40k is because of tournaments. I love the lore and I love the universe, but I also have no interest in any kind of 40k game except matched play. And I go to both RTTs and GTs whenever I can. Sadly, as a teacher, I can't take time to go to GTs during the school year, but there are 3 RTTs a month within an hour of me, and I go to those as often as my wife will let me. I think it's a shame that tournaments get such a bad rep from a lot of the community, and I'm sure there are plenty of tournament horror stories. Oh yeah, there are. However, I've been to around a dozen in the last year and a half, and I've never had a really negative experience. Of course, there are frustrating gamers, but that's also very true in every hobby and every game. Probably the worst game I've played against was against a guy who barely knew the rules, and so we only got through turn 3. Other than that, the only frustrating things are things that would come up in my game. Calling a TO because of poorly written rules, disagreeing on precise measurements, etc. Most people are even totally fine with letting people go back and do actions they forgot to do during movement or whatever. On the whole, that's not so bad. That is very interesting because I've heard a lot of people saying that it's the opposite of that. But to support what you're saying, I've had people who aren't playing in tournament ways not allow me to go back and do other things. So like if I've missed something in a psychic phase, or if I've missed something in a shooting phase, they have not allowed me to go back. Even like I finished my shooting phase and I've started moving things for my turn, for my charge, and I've realized, oh shit, I didn't shoot this thing that's not going to be in combat against something that wasn't in combat. Shit, can I do that again? And they've said no, right? Fair enough, and you're saying that people in tournaments allow you to do that. That's really cool. I love competing against other people in as fair of a matchup of skill as possible. In high school and college, it was debate. Then, it was League of Legends. Anyone who thinks the Warhammer community is full of unsocial weirdos should try playing competitive League. Oh yeah, man, yeah, trust me. I think it's nerds in general, man, to be honest with you. And now it's 40k. When I first started going to tournaments, I was bad, like really bad. But everybody was incredibly kind and encouraging and gave me mostly non-condescending advice after games. At my first GT a few weeks ago, I finished 3-3, and I just had my first undefeated tournament last weekend. I also like tournaments because of the variety of opponents. In my group of friends, we have my Orcs, then Craftworld, Grey Knights, Guard, and Custodes. I get to play against other armies and playstyles I never would have seen. Someone mentioned a few days ago in one of their submissions that tournament games tend to be all pretty samey, but I disagree. Missions and secondaries provide a lot of variety between games, alright? You always say that Warhammer is about choosing your opponents, and that's totally true. So long as the community isn't toxic and does a good job of self-policing, tournaments can be a great way to find people, to find those great opponents. It would be a shame if horror stories about tournaments made people never check them out if they're interested. Anyways, that's my unpopular opinion. I don't begrudge anybody who doesn't like tournaments. My wife has a Harlequins army and has zero interest whatsoever in ever leaving the house with it. People should enjoy the hobby the way they like it. I just happen to enjoy painting and the painting and competitive part, not so much the casual narrative part. Next time, I'll write about my D&D party committing suicide without warning because the DM we all decided we hated our characters. Alright, do you know what? I honestly think that you've got a really good point there, and tournaments can be good. They can be a force for good. And I think I've said that before in a lot of my previous videos too, in that tournaments can be a very much a force for good in the hobby. I really like the fact that you're okay with other people being in a different part of the hobby. That's great. You don't always get that from tournament players. Tournament players that I speak to sometimes tend to have a tournament or bust kind of attitude, where they think you're not a real hobbyist if you don't go to tournaments. But I do agree with you. If every single horror story was coming from a tournament, then people just wouldn't go, And if you feel like tournaments are for you, and I'm not talking to you specifically now, but somebody who might like tournaments, if you think they're for you, you should definitely give them a shout, because I think that tournaments can be an excellent way of making sure that you have a really good time and you're getting to face a whole wealth and variety of opponents. Those are the Hobby Nightmares for Wednesday. Thank you very much for sending them in. I'm now getting a fair few in now, which I like, but please keep sending them in, because I love reading hobby horror stories. I do it on the train almost every day, so please make sure you do so. Love you a long time, and if you like what I do, then please make sure you go and subscribe to the Patreon or become a channel member or something. That really helps me out in the long run, and it means a total huge amount to me. There are a lot of you who are subscribed at the moment. Please don't look at the amount of people subscribed and think, oh my god, you know, he's getting close to his target. Nowhere near. A lot of you subscribe to me with what I can only term to be a beer every single month, which is fine by me. Thank you so much. But it also means that when I'm writing that backer page, there's a lot of names. So I do about half an hour. I did half an hour yesterday, and I'll do another half an hour today, and that'll mean it's up for the next video. So love you all a long time. Have a good one. And I will speak to you tomorrow when we're going to be covering our Lost Legions. So, speak to you then. Love you all. See you then. Have a good one.